Good day, Sharks. My name is Caden Harris.
My name is Walker Alondra.
I'm Noah Peters.
And I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Gabriel Pardo. Today, we're here to ask for your investment in a product we believe will change the way every lab in the world trains its people, from a high school chemistry classroom all the way to an industrial chemistry facility.
Every year, thousands of lab accidents happen, not because people don't care, but because traditional lab safety training is not adequate in preparing you for the real thing. A video, a presentation, or a one-time walkthrough is not enough to prepare you when you're in front of a chemical cabinet and something goes wrong. We built something better.
So what is SafteySim? SafteySim is an AI-powered augmented reality laboratory safety training platform. When a new user walks into their lab, SafteySim uses machine learning to scan and recognize the physical space around them, the equipment, the layout, and the hazards. It then cross-references safety manuals and documentation submitted by the customer to build a training simulation that is completely unique to that facility and worker. Think of it like a video game tutorial, except the environment is your actual lab and the stakes are real.
Here's how it works. Users physically move through their space while SafteySim overlays interactive scenarios directly into the world in front of them. They can locate the fire extinguisher before a virtual chemical fire spreads. They can practice safely handling a spill near a real fume hood. They can work with dangerous materials in augmented reality before ever having to touch them in real life, all in a consequence-free training ground.
And that's not all. Due to the adaptive features of SafteySim overlay, it could be fully tailored to our customers' needs whether it be a professional or academic setting. No new materials, instructor time, or downtime is needed, although the option to manually input new materials, of course, is still included.
The result is a fully flexible certification system that meets people where they are, literally. Today, each of us are going to explain a different reason on why SafteySim is not only a smart safety tool, but a smart investment. Let's get into it. So before anyone can work in a lab, they need to be trained. This process sounds simple, but it can actually be complicated and inefficient. This is where SafteySim comes in to streamline the process with its AR technology and its self-paced system. So firstly, in this presentation, I'll be discussing the current flaws of the traditional system. And secondly, I'll be discussing how SimpliSafe eliminates those flaws and speeds up the process. And then finally, I'll be talking about what implementation of SafteySim would look like in different lab environments. So beginning with the flaws of the traditional system that's currently in place, this system, it's required because before students and workers can work in a lab, they need to know things like the PPE and where things like fire extinguishers and fume hoods are before they can work in a lab environment. And this takes time. This is an issue because in today's world where time is very valuable and very crunched for most people, every second counts. So this taking away of time can look very different depending on the environment. So for instance, I'm going to use the school environment. In the school environment, this could take away classroom time, which is very valuable because the student's schedule in the classroom is very specific and time crunched. In terms of the workforce, it can take away from many days at a time of work days, which could be used for doing something more productive. And this is further supported by first OSHA's laboratory safety standard, which states that employees must receive training before working with hazardous materials, and they need to receive actual like basic lab training. And then additionally, OSHA's hazard communication overview, which states that basically whenever a new hazardous material is introduced to a workplace laboratory or a student's laboratory, new training must be done over that substance. So even after their basic training, they still need to go over new training, which takes up a lot of time, but it provides a lot of room for improvement in this system. And this is where SafteySim comes in. So with its AR technology and its self-paced training system, it allows users to complete training, first of all, on their own device. This is where the self-paced part of it comes in. So, for instance, workers, instead of having to complete training on the job, they can complete training whenever they want during the day. And this improves ease of use and efficiency when completing the training. They can complete the training faster. And it's a similar thing with students. They can complete the training within their time frame. Now, the AR technology is very interesting. The AR technology works similarly to how the T-Rex is presented on the phone in this image. Basically, the phone can it can project certain images into real life, which can make it much easier to understand how it would look. This type of training is very useful and much better than traditional passive training systems. This is supported by Archive in 2018, which states that computer-aided training like this more accurately represents workplace situations and it improves engagement, which makes things more efficient once more. So the implementation of SafteySim, now that the solutions have been presented, should be pretty easy to visualize. So first, training would be able to be completed faster, and trainees would have a much more hands-on kind of experience, and they'd have much more accurate knowledge when working with tools and the hazardous materials in the lab. So in a college chemistry lab, for instance, all students would know exactly where their PPE, their fume hood, their fire extinguisher, their safety sprinklers would be because of the AR technology, which can point them into the direction that they would be in. Additionally, in a workplace environment, it would allow workers to know the same information, and they could walk through certain workplace scenarios and get them understood a little bit more. Additionally, further innovation in this sort of scope has not been done in a long time, at least not majorly. And according to Nature Chemistry, academic labs still have several major accidents all the time, and lab safety research itself is underdeveloped. Now, the implementation of SafteySim would not only help the present by implementing a more streamlined system, but it would also encourage further innovation of this subject, which is currently underdeveloped. For those reasons, SafteySim would not only be a smart training tool to introduce, it would also be an investment for the future. So in terms of training, current training methods take too long, and SafteySim fixes this by using new technology and a new system to provide workers with and students with easier training and more accessible training. This is why SafteySim should be implemented. Additionally, as investors, I believe that investing in SafteySim, again, would not only help the present, but it would help the future because it would encourage further innovation in this field, which protects lab members in their environment, which is of the utmost importance. Now that you understand SafteySim's impact on training, now my partner Walker will explain uniform training.
Hello, My name is Walker Alejandro, and today I'll be going over SafteySim and how it is standardizing safety and also eliminating training inconsistencies. Imagine two identical chemical labs. In Lab A new hire is trained by a 20-year veteran. In Lab B, a rush supervisor skips 3 chapters of the manual just to get them on the floor faster. The same job, just done completely differently and with completely different safety margins. Our laboratory safety simulator, SafteySim, reduces accidents through state-of-the-art AR simulation that covers a broader range of real-world scenarios that conventional training just can't really do. An MDPI 2026 study, surveyors noticed that 25% of researchers couldn't even locate their required safety training. Not finish it, but find it. That's the exact problem SafteySim was built to solve. Now let's walk through exactly what we'll be covering today. So the 3 things that we'll be covering today is first, the problem with the inconsistent training. Second, our AR-based solution. And third, what zero variance safety looks like in practice. Now, to see why standardization is so urgent and such a pressing matter, let's look at the danger of inconsistent training and how it might affect people in the real world. So, inconsistent training fails because quality varies by location, trainer, and instructor knowledge. A 2026 study in the Journal of Safety found 25% of researchers struggle to even locate their training, and another 25% were completely untrained on the hazards they faced daily. 1 in 4 people were just completely unprepared every single day to show up to work, and another 1 out of those 4 people just didn't know what they were dealing with or how it might affect them in the workforce, and in the workplace. And Margin, there is a direct link in between this, as found by Margareta. She found that there is a direct statistical link between inconsistent training and real injury rates. Inconsistent training doesn't just feel risky, it literally is, as seeing as that the statistical link showed that whenever there's more inconsistency with the actual methods of training or how the training was carried out, that there is a higher percentage of injury rates going on in the workplace. So, however, there is a solution that gives every person the same exact training, no matter the circumstance. So, SafteySim delivers standardized interactive AR modules so that every facility gets the same training experience. So, you see over here on the graph, traditional training methods with ideal conditions cap out at around 40% for retention rate. Now that's not to say that that's not good, but SafteySim's AR training raises that to 60% on average, a real meaningful jump backed by a 2026 PubMed meta-analysis that studied how AR training was used in the real workforce today in dangerous fields of study and how people were able to retain their skill more than what the traditional training methods offered. So, as you can see down at the bottom, 100% is our target. Full identical delivery to every device, every department, and everywhere is our goal, whether it's a refinery or a high school chemistry class. Of course, we're not there yet, but 60% is already well above what traditional training methods can offer. Now, let's look at what happens when the training variance is eliminated. So, division. Picture a workplace where the weakest link in safety compliance is permanently removed. New hires get AR headsets on day 1 of training, instead of waiting around for trainers to come from wherever they come from. Passive lectures that are often boring and not very interactive are replaced by immersive challenges that drive that 60% retention number. And the same rigorous baseline applies whether it's a refinery or a university lab. That means that 60% can only go higher with time, as everywhere where this system has been previously used, it can be improved on, and people are going to be more familiar with what is in front of them already. But let's put that side by side with the old way of doing things. Across every category that matters, consistency, coverage, and scalability, SafteySim comes out ahead of traditional training. And it's just better in every way. A far more consistent baseline means far less organizational risk within like the future. Traditional human-led training puts your operation at risk through inconsistent delivery. SafteySim significantly reduces this risk with standardized AR modules and a measurably higher retention rate. Don't leave your facility safety up to trainers just having a bad day or greedy managers just wanting to put new employees out onto the field. Don't invest in SafteySim. Raising retention on day one is a huge win, but maintaining it long term is an own challenge that needs to get explored further. To explain how we make recertification effortless, I'll hand it off to our next speaker, Noah.
Hello, I'm Noah Peters. Training someone once is not enough if they forgot what they learned a few months later. That's why SafteySim keeps workers continuously safety certified by providing automatic augmented reality refresher trainings whenever workplace conditions change. Traditional recertification falls apart fast. SafteySim will fix this automatically, and once it does, certification will stop being something that anyone has to think about. Traditional recertification can fade within weeks, and it'll pull workers off the job just to renew it. SafteySim generates a new AR training module the moment the equipment or a procedure changes. The certifications can stay current on their own without an instructor, without scheduling, and without disruptions. Recertifying workers the old way is slow, expensive, and falls out of date almost as soon as it happens. People forget what they learned within weeks if nobody's around to reinforce it. So a once-a-year refresher would barely help. According to MindStamp, the forgetting curve can erase up to 90% of what's learned within the month. Traditional recertification methods also removes employee from their jobs, requires instructors, and interrupts the normal operations. Even the immersive alternatives haven't quite solved this. Liberty Mutual's 2025 Workplace Safety Index found that employers pay more than $1 billion a week combined in direct injury costs. Also, a 2023 review by Babalola and colleagues found that immersive safety training, even when effective, demands significant setup effort and ongoing technical investment. Annual mandates are disruptive, and even modern alternatives have been hard to put into practice. SafteySim will solve this by automating this recertification. When new equipment or procedures are introduced, SafteySim will automatically generate an updated augmented reality training module. Employees complete it during normal downtime without having to leave their workspace. Managers can stop chasing instructor schedules just to run a routine safety class. Gong and colleagues in 2024 found that augmented reality training had a significant positive effect compared to just passive listening. This is because learners were actually getting to practice instead of just sitting through their lecture. Certifications stay current without slowing anything down. Once recertification runs continuously, the whole workplace will be safer and run better. Employees stay confident because they're regularly practiced on the updated procedures, and they don't need to rely on old information. Picture a lab where every worker automatically receives updated training whenever the equipment or procedures change. Workers will skip the classroom process entirely and still be compliant. OSHA's HAZWOPER standard requires this annual refresher training, and SafteySim will satisfy these requirements automatically. So organizing these trainings will stop being to the manager's day. Once recertification runs continuously, traditional recertification is inefficient. SafteySim automates the process. And continuous training creates a safer workplace. SafteySim keeps workers continuously safety certified through the automatic augmented reality refresher trainings. And this will adapt as the workplace changes. Continuous certification is only one part of SafteySim's impact. Jonathan will now demonstrate how this technology will be applied across biological and chemical laboratory environments. And here are our sources.
Thank you, my fellow presenter. And for my section, I'll be covering future speculations of SafteySim and current applications in the field of biology and chemistry. SafteySim is a state-of-the-art augmented reality technology that will revolutionize safety training in the field of biology and chemistry. Our product will ensure past safety oversights are eliminated and take current technology and go beyond. More specifically, SafteySim will be able to anticipate any and all scenarios, whether it be well documented in the past, able to analyze current situations, and then take that information to predict incidents, errors, or accidents that happen in the future. And starting with my first point, especially with some recent incidents, current safety training is still inadequate enough to eliminate substantial errors from reputable facilities. According to a 2020 PubMed article titled A Review and Critique of Academic Lab Safety Research, there was an incident at UCLA that involved a lab technician receiving severe burns to her body due to chemical exposure. And even at the University of California, Los Angeles, which is an extremely reputable academic and research facility, these detrimental accidents, these unacceptable accidents may still occur. And to the right of me, I have a table documenting all of the deaths that has occurred in laboratory accidents at academic institutions. And I would like to emphasize the bottom half a little bit more, where most of those deaths occurred in the United States, which is unacceptable. But with our product, we will be able to address these issues and even more. Our product, SafteySim, seeks to rectify safety issues by establishing an option to go through a tutorial before operation and lab begins, and also during. And according to a 2022 PubMed article titled Development of Yellow V5-based real-time smart monitoring system for increased lab safety awareness in educational institutions, there is already technology, or specifically monitoring technology, that are used in academic institutions that observe lab technicians in training and to see whether or not they comply and interact with safety regulations put into place. But our technology, our product, seeks to elevate this level by directly interacting with our users, providing them with necessary information, and also informing them of potential hazards. And YOLO in this case stands for You Only Look Once, and that is a specific model that is detailed to the right of me, the image of the figure 2 taken from the original source. It illustrates the specific images taken, the image recognition, and the specific system that sorts these images and how statistics are collected. And in our product, the prompted tutorial will not be like a pop-up ad or an annoying interface that forces you to do specific things, but rather it will be a tutorial solely at the discretion of the user. But there would be safety protocols put into place just in case if the user deviates too much and results in gross negligence. Instead, what would happen is a superior would be notified of his or her actions. And according to a 2006 PubMed article titled SBAR, a shared mental model for improving communication between clinicians, our model will also be integrating models such as SBAR, especially with communication and safety of our users' clients. So our product not only protects the safety of our users, but also protects the safety of their clients as well, just in case if there's something that are misdocumented or something that will cause in serious harm when done at the wrong place and the wrong time. And it also expands our scope beyond the biology field, especially that medicine is also a field in biology. Our product will ensure lab technicians are properly prepared to deal with even the most dangerous chemicals such as glutaraldehyde. And according to a 2006 PubMed article titled Worker Safety and Glutaraldehyde in the Gastrointestinal Lab Environment, glutaraldehyde is a potent disinfectant used in surgical settings, and our product allows users to gain experience and confidence when they would not normally be able to get. And how our interface would work is it would analyze the current situation and then bring up virtual or augmented realities of the objects that they would be working with, and allows them to have a sandbox in a way where they're able to mess with these things before working with the real thing in lab. And once they built enough experience and heightened confidence, they would be able to work with the real thing at a greater proficiency than compared to somebody that did not have our product. And to the right of me, I have a safety data sheet, which in specific cases where you're not able to access the safety data sheet, whether it be in a binder, in an electronic device, or in some other sorts of repositories, our technology are not only able to bring this up if you're still able to see, but in the cases where chemical spills are interacting with like other systems, whether it be respiratory and in the more detrimental case, your eyes, our system would be able to read out the important information, skimming through the documents and allowing correct information on how to deal with such chemical exposure immediately instead of being delayed or having to communicate with other people, although communication is still important in this field. And a few closing statements. With past laboratory incidents, current solutions, and possible futures documented, SafteySim would be able to assist users like never before, especially with elements of the past, present, and future at the SafteySim users' fingertips. We will be able to revolutionize the safety component of laboratories at all levels. I would now like to introduce Gabriel Padro, which is our economic benefit specialist for our project. Thank you.
Jonathan just showed you how SafteySim adapts to any lab-specific hazards, from a high school chemistry classroom to a full-on industrial plant. But adapting to a space only matters if people in that space can actually act on what they've learned. So let's talk about what actually happens when training doesn't stick and how much that actually costs. So let's be real here and talk about something that all of us already deeply know. Workers forget protocols under pressure. They always do. Reading about an emergency and living through one are two completely different experiences. A manual can tell you where the fire extinguisher is. A video can show you how to use it, but neither one prepares you for the moment when your hands are shaking, smoke is in your lungs and filled the room, and you have to remember something a manual told you like 6 months ago. That's not going to happen. This isn't even a hypothetical. The United States Bureau of Labor Statistics reported 2.5 million non-fatal workplace injuries and illnesses in private industry alone. According to the Campbell Institute as well, one of the biggest reasons safety fails is because it's hard to stick in their minds and it's harder to practice in classroom settings. And when there's no real pressure, that knowledge is going to fade away. So the problem isn't that people don't really care about safety. It's that traditional training never actually tests them on what actually happens and those conditions that those mistakes can occur in. So when that gap shows up in the real world, it doesn't just hurt one person, it can take down an entire operation. Let's talk numbers because sharks, this is where it gets serious and this is what it's all about. The National Safety Council found that that total cost of work injuries in the United States hit $181 billion in 2024. That's not abstract. That number is made up of wage losses, medical expenses, administrative costs, and uninsured employer costs. And those pile up on top of each other after just one incident. Take into account how many of those actually are, and you can see that the number really goes up pretty high. If we break that down even further, the average medical consultant consulted workplace injury costs $48,000. And on top of that, NSC estimates the cost per worker is just after injury-related expenses nationally exceeds $1,000 every time. When you take in account of all of your workers, that's the difference between a productive quarter and a shutdown. One untrained moment, one forgotten protocol, that's all it takes. So, we've established the problem. We've established that it's forgetting is really expensive. So here's how SafteySim is going to fix both halves of that equation. SafteySim doesn't just teach safety, it certifies it. Using AI-powered augmented reality, every employer practices real decision-making scenarios built specifically around their own faculty's layout, equipment, and documented hazards. This is not just a generic simulation. This is their actual lab. The data is going to back that up as well. Campbell Institute has also reported that organizations with strong, effective safety training see a reduction of 20% in all of their injury and illness-related expenses. That's the difference from $1 invested to $6 in return. That's a very measurable financial return. And SafteySim takes that proven training advantage and makes it interactive, repeatable, and specific to your environment. So by the time an employee is actually on the floor, they've already lived through dozens of, of intense and worst case scenarios virtually without risk. So picture it. A technician is in the lab. Something goes wrong near the medical cabinet, but instead of freezing, they actually run towards the fire extinguisher. They know where it is, they know what their hands need to do because they've already done this exact scenario in this exact room through SafteySim. That's the difference between a near miss that gets logged and forgotten and is heavy on the wallet, and that takes faculty offline for a full week. That's the value we're putting in front of you today, Sharks. So let's bring this all together. Caden showed you SafteySim gets your people certified faster than traditional training ever could. Walker showed you that it delivers identical uniform training across every department, every classroom, and every shift. Noah showed you that recertification happens automatically and on-site without ever pulling someone off the floor. And Jonathan showed you few specific lab hazards that this program and platform can adapt to anywhere in the world. And I've shown you that all of this isn't just talk, it comes down to real numbers. So, SafteySim isn't just a training tool, it's risk management, it's cost control, it's confidence built directly into the walls of your lab. We're not asking you to take a chance on a concept. We're asking you to invest in the system that's going to make sure your people never have to learn a lesson the hard way again. Thank you, Sharks. We are ready for your questions.